All right, welcome to another minimalist pedalboard setup. Let's create a patch series. I just named it now in this episode for some reason. In this episode, we're gonna talk about my lead tone. I'm gonna take you through how I create a lead tone. So in the previous episode, I was talking about my clean tone, which is what we have here. And now let's create a lead tone from scratch. So I have prepared a bank here, bank 19. Patch number 1 is my clean tone, which I've already saved. 2, 3, 4 is blank. Let's talk about the lead tone, which I normally save in patch number 4. So in the IR200 here, I have initialized patch number 43. So that's a blank patch. Now I normally set the settings of the IR200 first, the amp settings. So for the lead tone, what I would choose is an X high gain. So there are 3 high gain amps or high gain distorted amp kind of sounds. The X high gain, the British Stack, and the Bogner Uberschall. They all sound great. I'll show them to you in a bit, but I mostly prefer the X high gain. So this is what it doesn't make a sound yet because the send and return, like I mentioned in the previous video, is set to off if you initialize a patch. So let's turn that on first. Go to memory, send return, then on. Now my guitar is on, but it doesn't sound like an overdriven or a distorted amp because in the MS3 I've also initialized this, and the IR200 is connected in loop 3. I need to turn on loop 3. So now that's the X high gain sound. So let's get out of that. And what I normally do is just go into the amp settings and turn the gain all the way to maximum. And aside from that, EQ is flat. I forgot to explain why I leave that flat. I'll explain it in this video. Gain switch, for the clean tone it was low, but for my lead distorted tone I set it to high. So that is like 90% done. This is the bulk of my lead tone. The X high gain set to maximum gain or drive, and that's it. So let's just save that. So the reason why I keep the EQ flat is even though you can change the EQ, you can increase the mids, you can increase the treble, and there's not much of a significant difference that I would find. But the reason is if you change the IR or the cabinet simulation, it has a more definitive effect on the final output of your tone if you just change or compared to just changing the EQ of the amp. So let's say for example I'm going to change to a 2x12. That's it has a more effect on what it sounds like overall if you change the IR rather than changing the EQ. So 2x12, 4x12. Let's see. So that's why I don't really mess around with the EQ of the amp. I just change the IR to what I like, and besides, it sounds good anyway. So aside from that, there's also a reverb, like I've mentioned in the previous video. So I normally set that to a low level. So let's save that. I normally name this X for X high gain. So for the IR200 side of things, that's already done. What I normally add in the MS3 is an additional effects like delay. So let's do that. So I normally have a 400 millisecond delay using the reverb block. So let's select that. And by default, that's already 400 milliseconds. And I just turn it on. You know, Boss has a lot of criticism of being like menu heavy, and there's so much buttons to press to like really get a desired sound. But if you try it, you know, I've been a Boss user for a very long time. If you just give it a try, you'll find that the default settings is actually good. And if you want simplicity, you know, this is as simple as it gets. I'm not touching anything. I'm just turning them on. The only thing that I do change is, like, for example, the delay. I select, so I already have a 400 millisecond delay. The main delay block, I normally set it to a much longer delay, like 800 milliseconds, or I set it to a tap tempo. But in this video, you see how long I need to turn the knob to get a desired delay time. Normally, I would edit this in the app. So let's just stop at 645. So there's a longer delay there compared to my other patches. Let's save that. The other thing that I would do is an EQ, yeah. So sometimes I would add an EQ in the effects too here. So let's select a parametric EQ effect. So here, parametric EQ. I would just, let's turn that on. I would maybe lower down the low gain, or not. Not really. Maybe boost the level 1 dB, 800 hertz for the low mid, and I just boost that to 3 dB. Just a very subtle mid EQ, or an mid boost EQ. I'll leave that there. Low cut, maybe. Take that. So somewhere like that. So that's it. That's my lead tone. And another thing that I need to set is the solo boost, because sometimes it's not a guarantee that if you have this lead tone, you know, when it's time for your solo, you need that additional boost to make sure that your solos are heard. And that's what I have set here, or need to set in the IR200. So because this is an initialized patch. So let's go to menu. So the 2 foot switches here, I need to set to the solo boost and the EQ boost. So we'll go to the down and up function. So by default, it's a memory up and down. So I need to change that to amp solo, and this one to the EQ. So when I press this, you can see that the solo text is turned on, so that when I need to boost my guitar solo, right, so basically that's it. That's my lead tone. If you've seen me play live, this is about the sound that I used. X high gain, amp, full gain to 120, a 400 millisecond delay, and another long delay, maybe 800 milliseconds, or I set it to a tap tempo, and slight EQ mid boost, and that's it. And a solo boost as well for that additional bump of dB. And let me show you the other amps though. So British Stack. It's kind of a little bit trebly, but you know, it works. Maybe this one I adjust the EQ. And the Bogner Uberschall. The Bogner Uberschall is kind of very low level, so I need to adjust to compensate. those are the 3 high gain amps that I use, but I mostly use the X high gain. So that's it for my lead tone. I'll make a video about my low gain overdriven tone and my distorted rhythm tone, which is kind of a similar, so I'll just combine them, kind of a similar setup. I really keep things simple with my settings of the pedals that I use. So that's it for the video. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next one.